Thanks for joining us for CBN's On the Home Front. I'm Mark Martin. Today we're taking a closer look at our canine friends and their role in the military. War dogs have a long history in America's military. They've been there with soldiers on some of the most critical missions. Our national security correspondent Eric Phillips joins us now with the story of a Navy SEAL and his canine partner. Eric.
Yeah, well, in his book, No Ordinary Dog, Will Chesney focuses on his dog, Cairo, just as much as himself, if not more. He explains how Cairo saved his life in more ways than one, and that is why he wanted to focus on the role that working dogs play in our military today.
You know, I don't like talking about myself, but I'll talk about Cairo. He's pretty easy to talk about.
36-year-old retired Navy SEAL Will Chesney says he's always had a love for dogs and knew as a teenager he wanted to be a Navy SEAL. It wasn't until years later, after achieving that goal, that his two loves came together after hearing the testimonials of military dog handlers.
Raise your hand if a dog's ever saved your life, and everybody's hand just went up pretty much.
The first time I met Cairo was at Dam Neck at the training facility. And I remember him coming out towards the bunkers that we were working on, and he was a good-looking, laid-back, calm dog. He had a great bite. He was a really good worker. I got pretty lucky getting him.
Non-stop training built trust, relationship, and a deep dedication.
You know, we asked these dogs to do some pretty dangerous stuff. You know, sometimes they lay down their lives to save ours.
That almost happened during a 2009 mission in Afghanistan when Cairo was shot while protecting his teammates.
When I saw him, he collapsed. I thought he had passed away. I thought he was dead right there.
But Cairo survived and went on to take part in a mission to finally get Osama bin Laden, the infamous mastermind behind 9/11.
But my job that night was to do sweeps of the perimeter, putting the dog in the best position to find any explosives or tunnel systems. I like to say I was just there to babysit Cairo pretty much and let him do all the work. And I remember, I'll never forget when we landed, just looking around and seeing that everybody was still alive and okay, and we had accomplished the mission. And I got to do it with my dog.
Assignments then took Chesney and Cairo in different directions. About a year later, a grenade blast left Chesney with a brain injury and post-traumatic stress, resulting in a difficult discharge from the Navy. By then, Cairo was also reaching the end of his career, and Chesney was able to bring him home.
Cairo was a huge part, and I would think getting me through the tough times as well. Cairo helped me get through some really tough times.
After watching Cairo suffer from cancer, Chesney had him put down in 2015. He says he wrote No Ordinary Dog to honor Cairo's memory, while also bringing attention to military working dogs and service animals in general.
He took care of me, I took care of him. And I just want to tell Cairo's story.
It's an ultimate love story between man and dog, and it highlights the integral role that service dogs continue to play for our military men and women. And that's why, with shrapnel still in his body, Chesney is dedicated to making sure that he advocates for these animals. He says he believes Cairo would be proud, Mark.
And Eric, I know with a story like this, there's always so much to tell, but what did you personally take away from it?
It was really just a feeling of how much there was dedication and how much love there was between Will Chesney and Cairo. Having an opportunity to talk to Will about how he and Cairo did everything together. It wasn't just performing these missions together. There's a trust and a love that is developed over the course of time, both when you're working and when you're not working. And what's interesting that happened in this particular story is once Will could no longer perform his mission as a Marine, he then had to go home, and just out of fate, and some might say it's more than just fate, but around that same time, Cairo was being retired, and he was able to help Will through those wounds, those mental and physical wounds, even after they both had been retired from the military. So we're talking about a situation where there was an endearing love. And I think that happens not just for military dogs, not just for working dogs, but even for those of us who have dogs and pets of our own. We understand that deep sense of love that you feel from the pet owner to pet, and that deep sense of loss when they're gone.
Yeah, true camaraderie there. All right, Eric. And Eric is going to be here throughout this special. And we are also joined now by Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North and former Army Ranger and CBN contributor Chuck Holton. Gentlemen, welcome. We're honored to have you on the show with us today.
Glad to be here.
Good to be with you, Mark. Thanks.
Colonel North, when you see stories like that, what are your thoughts?
Well, you know, I spent 25 years in the Marine Corps. To cover 18 years of this war for Fox News. I don't think I've been on a single deployment in all of those years that we didn't have a war dog with us. And of course, the purpose of the war is basically out by their breeding. The dogs are bred for a very specific purpose. Some are attack dogs like you see in the law enforcement. Some are scout snipers. They're picking out targets for guys. They're out in front, literally leading at the point of a patrol. I had a war dog like that with my rifle platoon. They're the kinds of dogs that you take, Chuck and I have seen a lot of together, that are out there as IED sniffers. And if you follow in that dog's footprints, you will not step on an IED. And Chuck and I have seen that. And the kinds of things that you see them are all based on, one, the breed bred for a purpose. Number two, they're trained for a very specific purpose. And number three, as Eric was just pointing out, the bond that exists between the handlers and the dogs are simply phenomenal. I mean, they literally would die for one another, and I've seen that happen. So I have a lot of experience with these animals. I've got a great war dog of my own right now. It's a Boykin Spaniel. You know, wouldn't want her to run any attack necessarily, but she's got a great nose.
And Chuck, what about you when you saw that story?
You know, what always amazes me about these dogs, as I've seen them in the combat zone, is just how engaged they are. I mean, they're not just there to go sniff out a bomb. They're not just there to, protect their handler. They are riding in helicopters, even rappelling out of helicopters or jumping out of airplanes with their handlers. It's unbelievable to see the things that these dogs can do. And when the team practices first aid, they practice giving first aid to that dog. They practice tourniquets. They practice IVs. And I did a story several years ago about a special hospital in Germany that the United States has over there on one of its bases, specifically for these war dogs who have been wounded in combat. And going there and hearing the stories of the kind of heroic things that these dogs do on a day-to-day basis, it'll just give you chills.
Yeah, well, I have a question actually for both you and for Colonel North. When you're talking about working with these dogs in this type of capacity that you just talked about, does it make you better understand why dogs are called man's best friend?
Well, there's no doubt. Look, first of all, I don't mean this to in any way offensive to my Special Forces guys and my Ranger pals, that the streets of heaven are guarded by United States Marines. That's a hymn. So we also know from Hesitations 4:11 that all dogs go to heaven. And so if anybody of you guys watching this broadcast get there before me, if you would please put in a word that I would like to, instead of guarding the streets of heaven, because I've done an awful lot of that, I would very much like to be in charge of the doghouse, since all of my dogs are going to be there, plus all of those remarkable war dogs that I've seen over the years. And I'll be in charge of feeding them and petting them and playing with them for all eternity. It's, as we know, and one of them's got.
Right, apparently having some audio problems there with Colonel North's signal. We're going to be right back, though, with more of On the Home Front. And as we go to break, here's some four-legged military trivia for you about how many dogs are currently working in the U.S. military. You see the possible answers there. We're going to come back with the solution.
Daddy?
Yeah, buddy.
How many nickels are in a dollar?
There are 20 nickels in a dollar.
How do birds fly? Does milk really make my bones stronger?
Yeah.
Daddy, when we die, will we go to heaven?
Do you have the answer to life's biggest question? Call the 700 Club. We'll help you find answers to the important questions life brings your way.
Watch breaking news, in-depth exclusive stories and programs from health to entertainment you won't find anywhere else. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. Enjoy credible news reporting from around the world. Discover inspiring programs and stories of hope, all in one place from a Christian perspective. The CBN News Channel, a perspective you can trust. To watch the CBN News Channel, download the app or visit cbnnewschannel.com.
Hello, I'm Dr. David Perlmutter, board-certified neurologist and #1 New York Times best-selling author. Wouldn't it be great to boost your energy, eliminate brain fog, and even reverse brain disease? Well, you can, and I'm going to show you how, along with some of the world's most well-respected brain experts in this DVD, Protect Your Brain.
Get Protect Your Brain, a free DVD only from the Christian Broadcasting Network, featuring experts on the cutting edge of neuroscience and brain health.
No matter how many times you've failed in the past, you really can do this.
In Protect Your Brain, you'll discover simple strategies to keep your brain young and healthy. Improve your memory. Discover the gut-brain connection. In Protect Your Brain, get your free copy at cbn.com or call 1-800-700-7000.
If you want to improve the quality of your life, get the DVD Protect Your Brain and get it today.
And welcome back to On the Home Front. The answer to our question on how many dogs serving in the U.S. military, about 1,800 or 2,000 authorizations for military service dogs are in active duty. About 2,000 authorizations for military working dogs. Eric.
Yeah, that number sounds kind of large, but when you think about the work that the military does, you know that you need kind of all hands and in some cases all paws on deck. I want to make a correction, though. I did say in the last section that Will Chesney was a Marine. In fact, he was a Navy SEAL. I'm sure that our Marines also find great solace in the help they get from working dogs as well. But Will Chesney was a Navy SEAL. But Colonel North, does it surprise you that number of dogs that we find that are in the military? Does the number that Mark just mentioned surprise you?
Oh, no, not at all. And every deployed Marine unit has a scout. Well, every single Marine unit that deploys takes with them a dog, at least one. And if it's a larger unit, when the 5th Marines was in the attack from Kuwait all the way to Baghdad, they had at least a dozen with them. And those dogs all had different purposes. Some were IED detectors. Some were bred to be, for example, in the footage I sent you guys that shows that wonderful yellow lab playing with his on the back of an armored vehicle. That's that dog's armored vehicle. The Marines just get to ride in it with him. And that vehicle is normally in the front of the attack. And the dog gets played with. And it gets to play with the other guys, because that's an IED detector. It's different than an assault dog or an attack dog. It's different than a scout dog. And that dog has not only been bred for that purpose, but also been trained for that purpose. And you can see in one of those the still taken from my helmet cam, that's a still taken of that same dog and his handler who just joined a helicopter assault unit in the largest helicopter assault in the entire Afghan war. And I was going on that, and that's why I'm walking up to it. And those guys are kneeling in prayer. They're not giving high fives because Dexter, the dog, is going to be with them, and his handler. They're so glad that they kneel down and say a prayer of thanksgiving that the dog is with them. And the dog, as Chuck points out, is going to be the very first one off that helicopter. And I'm going to be following right in that dog's footsteps, because if that dog gets out in front of me, I don't want to step on an IED, and I know the dog won't.
Yeah, very important point to make there, that these dogs oftentimes are putting themselves in danger so that we don't have to put ourselves in danger, or at least we can avoid it. Our servicemen and women can avoid it. Chuck, turning to you now, though, does the number of dogs in our military point to how vital they are?
Well, they certainly are vital because they're superhuman in some ways. I mean, there aren't too many Marines out there who can sniff out the enemy at 1,000 meters. And if the wind is right, your dog can certainly do that. There aren't, these dogs are used for sentry, for patrol, for, again, doing guard duty and things like that, along with the explosive detection and protection of the units that they serve. And there's one other thing that I've noticed that these dogs do. It's the effect that they have on the unit as a whole. It's just nice to have a dog around to come around and love on you a little bit when you're sitting around back at the base after a mission. It's that bond that you see between them that I think really is therapeutic for our troops, and I'm sure that the Colonel would agree.
Yeah, Colonel North, tell us about your War Stories program. You've even featured war dogs on them.
We did. We did one on animal warriors, and I suppose it's still available up on Amazon, or at Fox News at least. Look, the fact is, the loss of life that you experience with the unit before they had dogs and after they had dogs is dramatic. The difference in loss of life. If you look at the Battle of Saipan in World War II, and we looked historically at this, they were first introduced during the Pacific War. They weren't being used during the European theater initially. Eventually they were. By the time the 10th Mountain Division gets engaged in the battle for the Boot of Italy, there's war dogs with them. But the Marines were taking war dogs out to the Pacific because the enemy was often so close and so well concealed, the dog was the only one that was going to be able to find it. And it turns out the dogs found their way through minefields, found their way to the enemy. The dogs that I had when I was a rifle platoon commander in 1968, 69 in Vietnam, one of them was so brave that when his handler was shot, the dog took off and knocked down and tried to kill the shooter, the enemy soldiers, a North Vietnamese Army soldier. And then because we were treating the wounded handler, a Lance Corporal, the dog came back and we had to restrain the dog because the dog was going to prevent us from actually doing something to medically treat the wounded Marine. So they're remarkable animals. I love going out with them. I know for a fact that if I'm following a dog off a helicopter or out of a vehicle, I'm not going to step on an IED as long as my feet follow his.
And quickly, Colonel North, of course, we remember the powerful movie Saving Private Ryan. Dogs were a big part of that mission and World War II altogether, as you mentioned. Talk a little bit more about that.
Well, look, the whole idea, by the way, when the war was over, one of the great challenges, and it was a U.S. Army veterinarian. By the way, even the Marines have U.S. Army veterinarians. The U.S. Army veterinarians treat all the animals that are out there being used in these circumstances. All that began in World War II. And so the U.S. Army veterinarian who went ashore in Saipan with the Marines to treat the war dogs that were wounded was one of the very first times, and he convinced people to do this, that when the war dog came home, was getting ready to retire or getting out of the service, instead of putting them down, as some people advocated, because, gosh, they might contain diseases that other people don't know about, or perhaps be violent, vicious, he was the one who convinced the U.S. government to stop doing that. And if the handler was getting out of the service and wanted to take the dog with him, and almost all of them do, then let that happen. And that's why President Bush resurrected that policy for the war dogs sent off to this war.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Well, we have some more war dog trivia for you at home. When did dogs officially start serving in U.S. military conflicts? You got a little hint in the previous interview. The Revolutionary War, World War I, World War II, or the Vietnam War? We'll be back with the answer.
Are you suffering from feeling tired or worn out during the day? Can you not turn off your brain at night? You are not alone. Hi, I'm Dr. Michael Bruce, the Sleep Doctor, and I've partnered with the Christian Broadcasting Network, and we're gonna bring you some unbelievable information that you can use tonight to get a better night's rest.
Wake up to your best life. Call 1-800-700-7000 or go to cbn.com to get your free copy of Protect Your Sleep today.
Nutrition, exercise, essential oils, weight loss, and more. It's Healthy Living with Lori Johnson.
Talk about what's in this.
Join CBN health reporter Lori Johnson to get the latest information from today's top health experts.
This is fantastic.
Find out what you need to know to live a healthier life. Watch Healthy Living, Tuesday night at 9:30.
Woohoo! Hi, Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls man, come with...
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon. It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
The answer to our last trivia question is World War II. Dogs have fought in every conflict since the Revolutionary War, but did not officially become part of the armed forces until World War II. We are back now with my co-host Eric Phillips, Lieutenant Colonel Oliver North, and CBN News contributor and former Army Ranger Chuck Holton. Gentlemen, a lot of movies out there, many of them based on true stories like Megan Levy and Max. Let's talk about them. Colonel North, we see in Megan Levy's story just how much these war dogs can change a soldier's life for the better. Elaborate on that.
Well, let me just, because we only have a little bit of time left, let me just play the trivia game with you all. What is the most famous war dog who's killed a terrorist in recent days? Anybody remember his name?
You got me. I don't know.
Al-Baghdadi, hunted down by Conan,
yes,
the war dog.
Wow.
Yeah. I couldn't remember his name, but I do remember that.
Yeah. There'll be a great movie about that,
But talk a little bit
too.
about how dogs make lives better for soldiers.
Well, because it brings a touch of home. I mean, the fact is, almost everybody knows somebody, or they themselves have a dog at home. It brings you that connection to something with whom you can feel great affection, and it's going to help you every day on the battlefield. And sometimes you get to play baseball with them because they'll go retrieve the ball that went over your head. All that kind of stuff. It's very important to the morale of the troops.
And Eric, you had a question?
Yeah, well, the movie Max, when we were talking about all these different movies that were made about military dogs, the movie Max talks about how a handler was killed and the stress that had on that dog. And Chuck, the fact of the matter is, combat is tough on the animals as well, right?
Well, of course it is, but these dogs are so loyal and so pure-hearted that they will do anything in order to protect their handler and stay with their team. Now, I've seen, like I say, it's amazing to me. If you imagine how sensitive a dog's hearing is, for a dog to get on a helicopter, this screaming machine that's going to lift up into the air and fly away, that is not natural. There are very few animals that would willingly do that. But I've seen dogs do it all the time because my handler got on that screaming machine, so I'm going to get on there too.
Wow.
All right, we're going to leave it right there in this block, but don't go anywhere. We have more of On the Home Front after the break, but we do have another trivia question for you. Where do almost all military working dogs receive their training? See the options there? Your answer is next.
Introducing the CBN Bible from CBN.com. Now, an easier way to study the Bible and grow in your faith. Highlight your favorite verse. Read separate versions at a glance. Click and read a commentary. Or cross-reference your favorite verse using the Strong's Concordance. All the right tools to study the Bible, all in one place. The CBN Bible, available at cbn.com/Bible or the iTunes App Store.
This is CBN Newswatch.
Thanks for joining us.
Watch breaking news, exclusive stories and programs, credible news reporting.
We show you what's happening in the world and how you can pray about it.
This is CBN Newswatch, because truth matters. Weekdays at 5 on the CBN News Channel.
Superbook fans. Here's something else you'll love. It's the new Superbook Bible app. It's packed with games, activities, and Superbook episodes that you can watch for free. Oh, no! There's trivia, a fun daily devotional, and answers to your Bible questions. Plus, an easy-to-understand Bible the whole family will enjoy. You can even create your own Superbook character. Ta-da! Whoa!
Millsburg Falls made come.
Sorry, pardon me. Sorry, excuse me. Ouch!
Are you getting this?
Earn super points to win daily prizes, too. And so much more! Time to get back to my adventures. See you soon! It's the new Superbook Bible app. Free downloads on iTunes, Google Play, and Amazon.
We're back. The answer to the last trivia question about where the dogs are trained is at the Joint Base San Antonio Lackland in Texas. As we wrap up, we wanted to go on the lighter side and talk about how dogs really are man's best friend in a lot of ways. And movies as far back as Ren Tin Tin show that. Who remembers watching the movies or TV shows? Eric, first of all, your thoughts and on this and your closing thoughts on these four-legged friends.
Well, I do remember those movies and TV shows, Mark. I remember Old Yeller as well and some of the others that featured dogs that were so loyal and loving. And I will tell you that in doing this story with Will Chesney, talking about Cairo, I really got a deepened sense of just how important dogs are in our military. And I think it's amazing how they just run the spectrum, going from risking their lives to protecting their fellow soldiers to then, as Chuck mentioned earlier, providing that therapeutic relief just by loving on their handlers and the other troops that are around. I think that they are amazing animals and that they definitely add a lot to our military ranks.
And Chuck, quickly, I'm sure you've seen it as well inside and outside the military.
Well, I've been a dog owner my whole life, and I don't really trust anybody who doesn't like dogs. And I'll just end with this. You'll never see a military working cat. So we'll put it that way.
That's a great point. And Colonel North, we're going to give you the last words. Quickly, fond memories of Ren Tin Tin or any service dogs or pets?
Absolutely. And just like Chuck just said, 77 years I've been on this planet, and I've got a dog the entire lifetime of it. The beagle that my brothers and I grew up hunting behind is not the kind of dog that I'm so familiar with jumping off the back of a helicopter behind him. The bottom line of it is, thank the good Lord that we've got people who breed and train these dogs for these purposes to save the lives of these soldiers, sailors, airmen, guardsmen, and Marines. Semper Fi.
So true, and thank the Lord for these animals themselves. Gentlemen, thank you all for your time. Eric Phillips, Chuck Holton, and Colonel North, we really appreciate it and hope you enjoyed it today as we talked about war dogs. And that's going to do it for today. We hope you all join us next time. Have a great day. Thanks again for watching On the Home Front.